Okay, everyone, thank you for joining our webinar. This week we'll be talking about consigned slabs or consignment inventory. And I am excited to introduce Roderick Bly. He is with Fabricator's Choice. They are a consulting firm in our industry. They're experts, and so we've really appreciated and we really value their feedback and their perspective. And this week, Roderick will be presenting on consignment inventory, so I'll go ahead and let him take it away.
You should be able to see ActionFlow now?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. All right, so this morning's topic is going to be consignment inventory and all that is involved in managing that and looking after that and making sure that things are paid for properly, etc. So I'm just going to go ahead and start on that topic. So I have a sale order here that I've written up and it has some material on it. So let me bring that up on here, screen here. You can see I've got some material here, some alpine white. And that's some material that I'm going to make sure is available as consignment only. So in doing so, we're going to go over to our inventory module. And I've already started a purchase order to save a little time here. And this will this whole feature set of consignment inventory will require that a number of small custom fields are configured. This makes it easier for reporting purposes as well as for managing consignment. So you can see here in the upper section here called Inventory Purchase Order Details, I have this little checkbox labeled consignment. So this way I can very quickly find in my grid view, or if I'm looking at my vendor list, I can quickly find all my purchase orders that are consignment driven. The key to this is that all of the inventory that you put on this purchase order should only be consignment. So if you're placing an order for both consignment and for stock or a special order situation, that you isolate this purchase order to be exclusively for your consignment inventory. So we follow along now with the actions that are kind of related to this here. I've got 5 slabs that I've asked for alpine white. Got my cost in there and I got my sizes, etc. in there, and I've even got some of my vendor item IDs already pre-configured. I've got that on my packing list here. So I'm going to go ahead in this case here and I'm going to indicate that I've received this material. I'm going to set the receive date to be today, and so I've got that in order here. So once I go ahead and place my order, you'll see that it's now been in the status of created and ordered. I've got them on order. I'm going to receive them this morning. And one of the options that you'll need to have added to your database, and you can have your database administrator assist with this, configuring this, you're going to select consigned as the option as to what you're receiving. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this because I've received them all. And I'm going to predefine the location where they're going to be. And at this moment, I don't know where they're going to be located. So I'm going to select TBD. My material handlers will update the location as they go through this. There we go. So now you can see the status of the purchase order itself up here in the upper left. It says consigned. You can see that I've received it as consigned. And you can see the status on the 5 slabs also says consigned. Now, you'll notice on the consigned inventory export, there's a note here in the comments field that gets automatically populated that says, do not click done until all the slabs have been paid for or used. And that's very important that we wait until that happens. Okay, so I've got my 5 slabs sitting here. I'm going to switch back over to my job itself. I'm going to click open slab details. I'm going to add, in this case, I just need the 1 slab. It's only 34 square feet. I'm going to go ahead and pick from this list here. I'm going to go and, hang on a second here. I probably should have, I'll tell you what, I'll go back out of here and come back into it rather than, it doesn't really know behind the scenes that I've added those slabs. So let me go back and do it here. There we go. Click on add slab here. And from this list now, I'll be able to pick one of those slabs. And typically, I like to select the lowest serial number if it's available. Typically, that aligns with how things are arranged in the yard, where the oldest or the highest numbers at the back, and the lowest numbers at the is sort of the first one I want to grab here. and add to my job. Okay, so there I have it on my job right now. And I'm going to now emulate that I've actually consumed it and used it. I'm going to do that through the fabrication tab. So it's going to open this up for me. And there you can see there's my, down here, I've got my slab of silestone, alpine white. You can see by the status that we already know that it is a consigned slab. I'm going to go ahead and click use on that. In this case here, I'm not going to really worry too much about a remnant for now. I'm just going to say, yes, I've consumed that slab. And so now the status, like any other slab, changes to a status of used. If I go back into my purchase order that I've had here, and I was to refresh this purchase order here, you would see that the status of one of those slabs has changed to used. Now that's important that that happens because it is only then that if I go to my report module and look for a report called consigned slabs to pay for, the only time that slabs appear on this report is when the status changes from consigned to used. So we'll just wait a moment here for the report to generate. There we go. So according to this, I have 2 slabs that have been consumed. And at this point in time, I can be proactive and already notify my accounting department that there's 2 slabs that have been consumed. One is for Triton stone, and the other one is for Cosentino. In this case here, I might choose to let this list continue to grow as the week goes on. Maybe my commitment is once a month. I have to go through my consignment inventory and then go ahead and submit to my suppliers what I've consumed. Some people wait for the invoice to come through before they process it. Others will be proactive and tell the supplier already the slabs they've consumed and get the payment away. Depends on your relationship with your suppliers. So I'm going to focus on this one slab of Cosentino, this Alpina white. It tells me what purchase order it's on. It tells me it's purchase order number 10. The item ID, item number on the slab was number 10. And at the right, it tells me it was used. So I'm going to go ahead and go to order number 10, which happens to be the one that I'm currently in, but if not, then I could search for it in my list here and find it, number 10. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to this item here that's used, and this is the one that I'm obligated to pay for. Now you have 2 ways to do this. One method is scroll to the very, very right, and you will see there's a field here named invoice number and invoice date. If I have just one slab that I have to pay for, then the easiest way to do it is simply come into here and select and enter the invoice number as supplied by the supplier. Then I can enter the invoice date. Let's just say, for instance, it's the 20th that they've asked for payment on that goes. So as soon as I do this now, in essence, this slab has now been consumed. That's the status being used. It's tagged on job number 1, area number 2. At this particular point in time, by clicking save, if I was to go back to my report over here and rerun this report, recalculate it, that slab will no longer be on my list of slabs that I have to pay for. So this particular point in time, I'm probably going to take the invoice and I'm going to go ahead and take it to my accounting department and have them issue a payment for that slab. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of push things along here. I'm going to take 3 of these by hand, and just to kind of speed things along here during our demonstration here. So let's just assume that I grab these 3 on a job. And I've used them and consumed them, whatever the case may be. So now I'm in a situation where if I was to run that same report again and hit the refresh button, it'll now show those new 3 slabs. And the reason why it doesn't show the 4th one is because the 4th one has an invoice date and an invoice number. So it knows that those have already been looked after and I don't need to deal with them. So right now my consignment slabs to pay for, 3 slabs of Alpina, white. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to selectively grab all 3 of them. So let's assume that I'm going to pay all 3. Yes, I can go to the right and enter the invoice number, and I can go and enter the full amount in there if I want to. Or I can simply go over to here and I can say, I'm going to select allocate selected. Notice I have 33, 34, and 34, 5 highlighted. If I select allocate selected, and now I was to enter an amount into here and an invoice number and an invoice date. So I'm going to enter an amount in here. What do we got here? We got 13. One moment here. I'll just do a quick calculation so I get the right number in here. So I'm going to do 1398.88 times 3. So I'm going to pay off 4196.64. So come back into here again. Allocate selected. Amount I'm going to pay. Invoice number. And I'm going to enter the date in here, the 20th again. Vendor PO if I want to, or notes. So this is partial. Pay, enter whatever you feel comfortable. And I'm simply going to click OK on this one here. So by doing this then, if I was to refresh this, scroll over to the right, you will see now that these 3 have been updated, not the 5th one. The 5th one's still hanging out there, but I now have 3 of them that are on this invoice with that invoice date and the original one back over here with its own invoice date. So this is the one I entered by hand. And these are the 3 that I entered by using allocate select. So again, I'm just going to show you where I did that. Come under the chevron icons, the 3 icons here, with, and then select allocate selected. Now, what you can also do at the same time is you can use some of these custom fields then to help you build some reports. So notice in here I have what I call my consignment report. And this is the report that I built. The status that I'm looking at is consigned. And now I'm able to go along here and see what I have left in inventory that has not yet been paid for. And you can quickly see by this here, you can see the invoice date and the invoice field are empty, etc. I can see my lot numbers and my vendor items IDs. You can see they're currently not allocated. So if anybody was to ask you, what is your open consignment items that have not been consumed or paid for yet, this is where you would go to review that. Now, I have 2 suppliers. So let me quickly show you how you can make life easy for you if you're looking at a supplier or a vendor. I'm going to go into the vendor. I'm going to go to Cosentino. And once you have that vendor selected, if you click on the inventory PO section, you will quickly see, using the check mark, that you can quickly find the status of the purchase order that is, in this case, consigned. The reason we designed the checkbox is because after the status of the purchase order is fully received and everything is complete and done, then that status changes. And so this becomes a little bit of a nice way to find all the consignment purchase orders that you ever created in the system, because that will stay there forever. I did the same thing now to Triton Stone. I'll be able here too to see I currently have just 1 purchase order. Status is consigned, but the checkbox helps me find those very quickly. So in a nutshell, again, if I was to refresh this report, because this is the one ultimately that is going to help me determine how my inventory is doing, have I moved it all, have I sold it all, etc., and have I been able to make sure that I don't have consignment inventory hanging out there that a supplier is going to be upset with me because I haven't come to the table and consumed it, or confessed that I've consumed it and paid for it. So this is your tool for knowing what has to be paid for. Your purchase order, again, is going to be dedicated wholly to consignment inventory. It's not going to be mixed up with stock inventory. And then finally, we have the grid view that helps us at any time confirm what we have currently on consignment in our company. So Grace, I'm open to any questions anybody might have.
Great, thank you. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, we'll give it a little bit of time. All right, well, thank you everybody for joining our webinar, and we will announce the next one when it comes up, and I will put this webinar online and probably have another announcement about how you can find that, but it's in settings and past webinars. So thank you so much, Roderick, for sharing that with us, and we will see you all later. Bye.